We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at Batman issue 231. This issue features two stories. The first one is a Batman story and the second one is a Robin story. The Batman story is self-contained and the Robin story is building on what happened last issue. So this time Batman is face off with the Man with 10 Eyes, or the 10-Eyed Man, more commonly called. Now the 10-Eyed Man first appeared in Batman 226, so we're not that far from his first appearance. This is actually his second. He later will appear in a Man-Bat issue and sporadically through the years. Not a very well-known or used villain. In fact, Marv Wolfman seemed to want to kill him off first during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Anyway, the cover here is by Neal Adams, and it's a pretty cool cover. He doesn't actually have eyes in his fingers. He could just see through them. It's a little nebulous, but his fingers work like sensors. So the script is by Frank Robbins with pencils by Irv Novick, inks by Dick Giordano. The backup story, Wiped Out, is by Mike Friedrich, pencils by Irv Novick, with inks by Dick Giordano. So the 10-Eyed Man wears gloves so he can sleep because there's no eyelids on your fingers, and he wants to get even with Batman, who he blames for the accident that caused him to be the way he is. It wasn't actually Batman's fault, but that's how he remembers it. And he even has nightmares about being burned in Vietnam by Batman with a flamethrower, and Batman is slowly figuring out that the missing security guard is somehow connected to the man that can see through his fingers. So Mr. Reardon, our 10-Eyed Man, gets a job as an air marshal and quickly hijacks a plane and takes it to Vietnam. Now he demands Batman show up or he won't release the plane. So when Batman does show up, the plane is released and he begins hunting Batman. Now he has a major advantage in that he can see through his fingers, so he can see 360 effectively, putting Batman at a massive disadvantage. Now Reardon was at this location during Vietnam, so he knows where some weapons are stashed, and he also knows where booby traps are, putting him at a massive advantage over Batman. Now Batman has to come up with a pretty clever ruse to defeat Reardon, and it's a pretty interesting conclusion, if a bit rushed. Now Robin last issue had gone through this computer dating service, which is 1971, so it would be all punch cards and horribleness, and he ends up being matched with Terry, the girl he met last issue. Now while they're out, somebody robs Terry's house and Robin's house, but thankfully they didn't find his costume. Robin kind of tracks these guys down fairly quickly. He figures out what's going on, and he also establishes that two of the guys that roughed him up last issue are in on this. So he deals with the perpetrators and then tries to take Terry out. And again, he wears an ascot, which looks really weird. Overall, the Batman story is the far superior one. The Robin story was okay. It's a pretty standard backup for this era where there's some action, but it's not a real deep or particularly interesting story. So I thought it was fun, just not super incredible or overly memorable. But the 10-Eyed Man was a pretty bizarre, weird character that every now and then seems to pop up. So he's got some weird power, but not really worthy of being in the Rogues Gallery. Even though he gets a goofy costume in the Man-Bat issue that he's in, I don't really see him being too particularly useful, other than the fact that he was a marksman in the military does make him kind of dangerous. And at one point he was in the Suicide Squad, and he did reappear in Detective Comics 1074 in 2023, so it's not like the character was completely abandoned. It's just a very obscure character that you don't see very often. So an interesting story with that character though, and it was pretty fun. The art's really solid in both stories, but I think the Batman story was the far superior tale. So I will recommend this issue if you can find it for a decent price. It's definitely not going to be worth the $20 that it's largely been going for online. So if you can find a decent copy for less than that and you want a complete Batman story, this might be one of the more offbeat, weird ones that you can add to your collection. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.